Don't do that. Please don't do that with your feet.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Filipino Freethinkers podcast. That's also a video. I'm Red.
And I'm Talia.
And welcome back.
I haven't been here in a long time, and I keep saying this each time I'm here because I keep disappearing for months and months on end.
Yeah, but our topic today is relevant to you because you are
A woman? Is that because is that because I'm a woman and you're sexist?
Okay. No, actually, it is. I mean, it is. It is because I'm not sexist, but you're a woman. You know that other part was correct. So we're talking about this new movie
That hasn't come out yet.
Suffragette. Is it suffragette? Suffragette?
I don't know because the trailer hasn't come out in the Philippines.
It hasn't come out. Yeah, so there's absolutely no way we could watch that like online.
There probably is.
We could
it's just that we haven't.
Here's a link. Maybe you'll watch it. But
and then when you do watch it, you can make fun of us for not saying it right.
Okay, so it's about the fight for equality.
Yes.
The fight for
Women's suffrage.
the most basic right to vote.
Yes.
And then it expands from there. And one of the main actresses or actors, what do we say? What's the politically correct? Yeah, Meryl Streep is in the film. She has a very. She's not the major actress in the film. I think it's just a small but significant part that she plays. She plays the role of Emmeline Frank. No, not Frank. Pankhurst. Right. And in the interviews leading up to the film, the other actresses, Carey Mulligan and the other main actress, who's I'm sorry, I forgot her name. She's not as famous as Carey Mulligan and Meryl Streep, but she will be famous after this this movie. Like they were asked during the interviews, "Are you a feminist?" And obviously, yes, right? But when the same question was asked
to Meryl Streep.
Meryl Streep.
Yes, the most prominent actress of them all.
Okay, what did she say?
She said that she was more for equality.
For a nice, easy balance.
Yes.
She identified as a humanist
instead of a
but
feminist.
She dodged the feminist question altogether, and that's what we're talking about right now. Like, was she wrong for not identifying as a feminist? And was it enough for her to say that she's for equality and that she's a humanist? So, of course, the feminist bloggers from Jezebel, from Mary Sue, they're criticizing her for not saying she's a feminist. She's been doing all of these things, on that speech about equal pay in Hollywood. She was, she
celebrates the women who bring that up.
Yeah, she's done a lot of things to be in this movie, but when it comes down to her identity, which is also a very important thing, she denied or rather dodged the question about being a feminist. And of course, a lot of humanists on my wall were celebrating this for the reason that, hey, here's a famous person not being ashamed of their being a humanist. So yay for humanism. But for feminism, not so much because, here's another noteworthy person. She's not the first one. Of course, it would be nice if everyone like Emma Watson would be as out about their feminism.
Yes.
But there are still a lot of celebrities saying that they're not feminists. So what's the deal with that? Before we get more into it, are you a feminist?
I am. And I actually have a problem with the women who say the things that Meryl Streep says. Because everyone has this idea, not of feminists, but they have this idea of the feminazi stereotype, who are rabidly anti-men or who feel like they're constantly oppressed. There is oppression. There are all of these things that that women go through that men don't have to go through. They do have to prove themselves in ways that men don't have to. And I acknowledge that, but I wouldn't blame all men for it.
Okay.
It's part of society that not every single man necessarily contributes to, because you can't really blame them for their existence. So that's what I think people imagine when they hear the word feminist nowadays.
So feminists are being lumped together and identified with the worst of the bunch.
Yes, the most outspoken.
Kind of like maybe Islam and terrorism,
Yes, actually.
Like for a lot of people who are not Muslims, they think of Islam and they think of, Islam is always associated with terrorism, therefore maybe a lot of Muslims are terrorists, and that's just not true. A very, very small, negligible percentage of Muslims are actually terrorists.
Yes.
And as far as the feminazis go, I assume it's also the same. You know, it's they're a small part of it, but even so, even if they were also feminists, like, is it correct to say that's the wrong kind of feminism, and feminism is supposed to be that nice, agreeable one that people can easily identify with? Okay, you answer the question before you answer my question. I will answer my own question.
Okay.
I identify as a feminist as well. I'm a feminist. I'm for the equality of men and women, not only equality, but further than that, justice, and we'll get to what I meant by that later on, but do answer my question if you still remember what it was.
Can you summarize it in a way that isn't confusing?
Yeah, should feminists now that they know, okay, we have an image problem.
Yes.
People like Meryl Streep are saying that they're not one of us. Should we clean up our act so that more people would be more
Inclined
willing to
identify
with
as
us?
I think it also discredits the people who are more rabid about it too much, because a lot
Rabid.
of it,
Okay.
like, fine, that might not be the right word, but
Okay.
they're very passionate about it, and I'm sure they have good reason to be passionate about it. The thing is, it's a broad range,
Yeah,
and people can take it
definitely.
to different lengths.
Yeah.
And it's not really right to discredit them just because they take it a step further. Whether or not you agree
Exactly.
with that step is entirely separate from discrediting them altogether.
Feminism is not monolithic. You know, there's not just one correct way. Although,
Yes.
of course, there are a few people who think that there's only one right kind of feminism, and these people are.
Monofeminists.
I don't. Okay, wow, it's religion now. But yeah, some people think that there's only one correct way to be feminist. Of course, there are many kinds of feminists. It's a spectrum, as with all things. You know, LGBT and stuff.
It's never black and
We
white.
progressives, we love spectrums.
Yes.
So there are many kinds of feminism. You yourself, when you get into this, you will realize where you fall on that. But it's better to understand rather to make judgments before even saying I'm not a feminist. You could be one. You could not like the label, and this
Yes.
not liking the label reminds me of atheism. You know,
Yes.
like we have that image problem as well. Are you an atheist?
Yes, I am.
Okay, I'm an atheist too. And a lot of people, they don't want to say they're atheists because of all the negative associations. Like you worship Satan, you're
You eat babies.
eat babies. That's the tongue-in-cheek one that
Yeah.
more often than not we hear from ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, just to exaggerate that you know the bad associations with atheists are just absurd. The problem about image is one that's shared by both feminism and atheism and even
Actually,
veganism.
Yes, actually,
You know, yeah.
this kind of stigma is common amongst any kind of minority.
Or yeah, any kind of thing that you're trying to push to the majority that's
Isn't
not
exactly mainstream.
that's not yet mainstream, that's not yet accepted, is going to have some there are going to be some problems with it. And let's say there was a movement for correct grammar. You know, like that's a nice playful thing to talk about.
And
You know,
spelling.
we call those people who correct every little thing that they see grammar Nazis, right? Like, and they can be annoying. You know, like the conversation or the argument becomes sidetracked when somebody brings up an error in grammar or usage or spelling or whatever
To discredit the other person.
to discredit the other person, or maybe they're just sincere. They just sincerely want to educate people about the value of good grammar and usage and spelling and punctuation. Sure, but the important stuff maybe gets forgotten, and instead of people wanting to correct their grammar or their usage, people will tend to try to rebel against the person. They will use it even more wrongly,
Yes.
I guess.
Just to annoy the other person.
Yeah, so
usually.
should of course there are better ways to correct someone's grammar, right? Like you could do it in private when you're only with the person, not on a comment, like in the middle of a long conversation with lots of people. You tell that person, "Hey,
By the way."
it should be there instead of there. and it should be it's with the apostrophe or companies with the apostrophe s instead of ies or whatever, right? You could have done that in a private message, but you wanted to show the world that you're better at grammar
Than this other
than this
person
other
whose point
person.
is brilliant.
So I guess similar to other movements, can we apply that to feminism as well? Maybe you don't want to shame someone for not knowing what's politically correct, and
I
maybe
think
it's
so.
better to
Yes.
you know.
But I think one reason why people are so touchy about it is also that we're aware that there is that image issue. So the more people decide they don't want to identify with this label, the more it gets stigmatized.
Yeah.
So it started out being a fairly equality-centric movement. Suddenly, people think that it's very anti-male or very rabid and crazy and like, I'll get rid of men slavery. It's not like that. But for some reason, people think it is simply because of this tiny minority. And now the prominent people are deciding that they no longer or they never wanted to be associated with this label despite holding the tenets that it has.
Okay, so the noisiest one on both sides of the feminism versus anti-feminism recently was on display online on the issue of Gamergate. It started
Yes.
there, right?
Yes.
The video game reviews and Sarkeesian and all of these other prominent people in that controversy, they were very mean to each other
Yes.
on both sides. So not just the feminists, not just the men's rights activists, like both of them. They had representatives who were very noisy, very loud and outspoken, and extreme against each other. So when someone thinks feminist, you think about these people who are noisy, or when you
Or
think about
angry.
men, or angry, or
Because
both,
often
right?
anger is the loudest kind of emotion.
Yeah, and you see sexism and you associate them with men. So men are sexist, right? But sexism exists on both,
both
sides.
sides, yes.
That, like men and women can both be sexist. They're both
Yes.
affected. They're both victims of sexism. But I mentioned earlier about the issue of justice, right? Because I do think that women are more victims. I mean, they have it. They have a harder time than the men do because of the patriarchy that exists, because of the sexism in
It's the
society.
key word.
They have it worse. They have it
Yes.
worse. So I do think that equality is not enough. Just you give people the same things. That's okay. That's equal. You give them the same things. But I don't think that's justice enough,
Yes.
right? Like you give people like what they need depending on the circumstances they're in. And more often than not, women have it worse, right? Like not only in the film industry, but in any kind of industry, in
Yes.
any work environment, in any family, in any social environment. I think name one environment where women do not have it worse. Maybe the feminist groups. But even in those, I assume that it's still impossible to avoid the effects of patriarchy.
I think it has to start from both sides also. It can't just be a bunch of women fighting for the rights of women because we have to have a large enough group of men who acknowledge that there are certain things that like there are certain ways that they benefit from how society is set up.
Yeah,
And sure, there are some ways that women benefit, but it's not exactly equal.
yeah.
And
It's
I think
not.
I
It's
think we
not.
need people from both sides acknowledging their own privilege and acknowledging where there are gaps in each other's privileges and rights
Privilege.
for it to be more equal and for us to get to a better place.
I think what people need to do is try to sincerely want to know about the topic.
Yes,
I think that's hard. That's a tall order. But
it is.
if you just read the headlines, if you just pick sides and do the internet thing where it's a cliff notes. What's a TLDR?
Or even if they just reevaluate what they go through in everyday life, because sometimes
Just be
people-
aware. Just
yeah.
be aware. So if
Yeah.
like if I were a woman, like how would this go? If you're a man, right? Like
Yes. Or what are the things that I'm going through that my male colleagues don't have to go through? Or even things like media that they don't notice. Some people don't realize how sexist comic books are.
yeah.
People don't realize how everyday art can be rather sexist and you're ingrained to think it's okay just because you were raised like in Philippine society. I'm sure none of you have ever seen a dishwashing liquid ad where the male is the one washing the dishes, except for maybe Mr. Clean,
Okay.
or the laundry soaps.
Yeah.
They're always, oh, for nanay, oh, for ate. It's
Or,
always like that.
or where the homemaker is.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's true. I think that it does reflect the way society is arranged. Right? Thank you so much for watching this episode. I'm Red.
And I'm Talia.
And you know the drill. Like, share, subscribe. We will discuss this at our very next meetup. Comment on the video, on the post. Call us.
We don't have a
send
phone
us your
number.
email us your questions and comments on the podcast.
Message our Facebook page.
Yeah, like just do the things and
They're all linked here.
and watch us next week.